All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle one of the biggest questions out there. What is the right thing to do? And to get our heads around it, I'm going to put you right in the middle of a pretty intense scenario. Okay, so picture this. You're driving a trolley car, you're really moving like 60 miles an hour, when you look up and see 5 workers on the track right in front of you. You've got a split second to make a decision. Your first instinct, of course, is to slam on the brakes, but nothing happens. They've completely failed. And you get that sinking feeling in your stomach because you know for a fact, if you hit those 5 workers, they're all going to die. Let's just say that's a guarantee for this scenario. So you're feeling totally helpless, right? But then, out of the corner of your eye, you see it. There's a side track off to the right. And on that track, there's just 1 worker. The good news? Your steering works just fine. So, what's the move? Do you yank the wheel and turn the trolley? You know, when you ask most people this question, the response is, well, it's pretty much a landslide. Almost everyone says, yeah, I'd turn the trolley. They'd sacrifice that 1 person to save the 5. In the logic, it seems pretty straightforward, right? It's just a numbers game. Better for 1 person to die than for 5 to die. It's horrible, no doubt. But it feels like the most logical, moral thing to do in a terrible situation. But is it really always that simple? Okay, let's mix things up a bit. We're gonna look at another trolley problem. This time, the situation's a little different. Let's see if that simple math still feels right to you. All right, so this time, you're not the driver anymore. You're just a bystander, standing on a bridge, looking down at the tracks. You see the whole thing happening. The runaway trolley, the 5 workers. You feel that same sense of dread, like there's nothing you can do. But then you notice you're not alone on that bridge. Standing right next to you, there's a very large man. And a thought crosses your mind. You could push him. Just a little shove. He'd fall over the side, right onto the tracks, and his body is big enough to stop the trolley cold. He would die, for sure. But the 5 workers would be saved. So what about now? How many of you would push the man? Whoa, suddenly feels totally different, doesn't it? Yeah, most people, when asked this, say, no way, I'm not pushing him. The weird thing is, the math is exactly the same. 1 life is sacrificed to save 5, but something inside us just recoils at the thought. So what happened to that principle we all seem to agree on just a minute ago? You know, the one that says better to save 5 lives, even if it means sacrificing 1? Why does it feel so right in the first scenario, but so incredibly wrong in the second one? Okay, let's break it down. Here's what seems to be the crucial difference. In that first case, with you as the driver, you're basically redirecting a threat that already exists. You're forced to choose between hitting 1 person or hitting 5. But in the second case, you're taking someone who is completely out of danger and actively, physically, making them part of the tragedy. That push, it just feels like murder, even if the numbers work out. And listen, this isn't just some abstract philosophy game. These questions have come up in the real world, in life or death situations. There's a famous and pretty grim 19th century British law case, the story of a ship called the Mignonette, that forced a court to face this exact kind of moral calculation. So, the year is 1884. 4 sailors are shipwrecked in the South Atlantic, literally 1,000 miles from anywhere. Things get desperate, fast. After more than a week, they run out of all food and water. Then, on day 19, they do the unthinkable. They kill the youngest crew member, the cabin boy, so they can survive. And just 5 days after that, they're rescued. The captain's diary from that time is haunting. There's this one entry where he writes, with this unbelievable calmness, that a rescue ship appeared as we were having our breakfast. And that breakfast, well, it was the remains of the cabin boy they had killed. When they got back to England, they were put on trial for murder. And their defense? It was necessity. They argued, look, it was better that 1 person die so that 3 of us could live. That's the exact same logic from our first trolley problem, isn't it? So put yourself in the jury. What's your verdict? Was what they did morally okay? The reason we get so tangled up in these dilemmas is because they expose a fundamental conflict in how we think about morality. There are basically 2 competing schools of thought at play here. Let's break them down. So on one side, you have what's called consequentialist moral reasoning. This is the thinking behind turning the trolley. It's all about the consequences, the outcome. The right thing to do is whatever brings about the best overall result, like, saving 5 people instead of 1. The most famous version of this is called utilitarianism, and its big champion was a guy named Jeremy Bentham. But on the other side, you have categorical moral reasoning. This is the gut feeling that tells you not to push the large man off the bridge. This approach says that morality isn't about the consequences. It's about certain absolute duties and rights. Some things are just plain wrong, full stop, no matter what good might come from them. Murder is wrong, period. And the main thinker for this camp is the legendary Immanuel Kant. So really, the whole conflict boils down to two different questions. The consequentialist, like Bentham, asks, what action will lead to the best outcome? But the categorical thinker, like Kant, asks, what is the right thing to do based on my duties and rules, no matter the outcome? And that's the tension, right there. That's the pull we feel in both directions. So this all leads to a pretty fair question. Why even bother with these crazy, impossible scenarios? If there are no easy answers, what's the point of all this moral philosophy stuff anyway? Well, the goal isn't really to find one single, tidy answer that makes us feel good. It's more about self-knowledge. Philosophy has this way of taking things we think we know for sure and making them feel, well, strange. It shakes up our assumptions. And once you start to see the huge moral questions hidden in everyday life, you just can't unsee them. And trust me, these questions are not just for the classroom. They are absolutely inescapable. Every single day, in our own lives, and as a society when we debate things like taxes or healthcare or going to war, we are living out our answers to these huge questions about rights and duties and what it means to do the greatest good. Now, it's really tempting at this point to just become a skeptic, right? To throw your hands up and say, it's all just opinion, there's no right answer. But the philosopher Kant had a great line about this. He said, skepticism is a fine place to rest for a while, but you can't live there permanently. These questions keep coming back because we have to answer them, one way or another, with the lives we lead. So the real point of all this is to awaken what Kant called the restlessness of reason. It's about shaking you out of your comfortable beliefs and getting you to start asking these hard questions for yourself. So now that we've woken it up, where is your reason going to lead you?